There we go.
Sorry about that camera there. I needed to show y'all.
Hello, everyone. Had a last minute rewind. It was all set up, and then the light that I had at my table died. So I moved to where I have plugs for a different light. And let me change the angle of the how do I change the angle of this camera? Hang on just a minute. I'm going to try not to make you all seasick. Nope, that doesn't work. Sorry. Okay, it's just gonna be this way. So I'm Naomi. I'm with Belle Stitches Pirates, and my channel has been mostly about cross stitch, and then in the spring I discovered diamond painting and I went down a rabbit hole. So here I am. This is my 4th diamond painting. It is Autumn Walk by Olga Darchuk, created by Diamond Art Club. And welcome. Gonna have to figure out how at some point to make it so that you're not seeing me sideways. I don't know how to do that. Actually, that at least gives you a better view. So, let's see. We've got Crafts with Crashly with us, and I'll point out I have the fall gnome release papers that she made. I have the little size. Yeah, so like I said, I've been doing a lot of cross stitch for years. I started my YouTube channel for cross stitch year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Started it for Mania. Would have been 2 Mays ago now, so a year and a half. And went down that big rabbit hole. I did cross stitch and crochet and tatting and beading and everything since I've been fairly young. I have memories of cross stitching when I was small. I have memories of crocheting when I was like 8 or 9. I learned how to sew garments and entered my first piece into a contest when I was 9, I think. And then made that more or less a career. I work in theater and doing wardrobe. So, for example, next week I do a lot of musical theater. So next week I actually will be working on Cats, the musical, when it comes to town. So I'll go in, work the shows, and do whatever repairs are required for that performance. Dress the performers and do it 8 times and then send them on their way to the next city. In August I did Lion King, and I was the beater, so not only did I dress performers, then during the day I would come in and I would fix any of the beading that had broken and do maintenance checks on anything else that had beading that hadn't been in to be repaired for a while, just to make sure that just to make sure that it wasn't an issue or, you know, being ignored. Because when you have a lot of pieces to check, a lot of times you will end up not necessarily getting to all of them. And for some of our dressers, they don't do beading, so until it breaks, they don't notice things like it's coming loose. It will break in the next 2 or 3 days. And so they don't think to bring it in before it actually breaks. So that's... We had Hamilton. Hamilton was here for a good long while. It was actually, I think, had been here for a little over a year when COVID hit, and then they literally left everything in the theater thinking they'd be back in a couple of months. And when they finally were able to come back, they stayed for about a month, and then they moved on to a new city. But Hamilton is a good show. I've seen it. I have not worked it, but everyone that has worked it has said it's a good show, and it keeps them up to date on their historical garments. Obviously, they're not 100% accurate because you don't have time to do 5,000 laces, so zippers are a must in theater. But yeah, I was with the death of Queen Elizabeth. I've been watching a lot of retrospectives on her life, and one of the programs that came up as a recommendation was called Party at the Palace, and it was the concert that they held in front of Buckingham Palace. And there was a segment where it was Andrew Lloyd Webber who did Phantom of the Opera. That's the one he's known for, but he's done a lot of different musicals. And Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton. And when they started, when they had the cast come out and do a performance of one of the numbers, my husband was rather bummed that they didn't do the skit with the king saying, "You'll be back." And I'm like, honey, it's been over 200 years. I don't think America's coming back. The king was wrong. Doesn't happen necessarily very often, but he was wrong. And that's not the best song to do for the Queen's Jubilee. Crafts with Crashly, that is really cool of him. I've heard he's a very nice guy. I know that a bunch of our dressers, they asked them to go down to Puerto Rico. He was starting one at, I think they've got 3 different touring companies out now. He was starting one of the touring companies, and he decided that they would do their rehearsals and their first series of performances in Puerto Rico. That's where they would start the tour from. and asked a handful of our dressers who had already been working on it here in the Bay Area to come out and to Puerto Rico and train the dressers and help them get everything set up, do all the teching. And he definitely is somebody who likes to give back when he has especially when he has a connection to a place. You know, in his case, his family's background is from Puerto Rico, and I believe the theater was either at his alma mater or his father's alma mater. So he had a connection to the theater as well, which was really quite something. Reese, the young ones are so fun. I co-parent my nephew, and I really enjoy taking him to the theater to see shows. And oftentimes we end up playing the soundtrack with him singing along many, many times. But love it. So one of the things I've been mulling around in my brain and thought I'd throw out here to get ideas on. My last piece that I finished was a mystery kit. It's a mystery kit from last fall. Or no, sorry, it wouldn't have been last fall. I didn't start diamond painting till early this year. It's the Abraham Hunter. So it was their 4th mystery painting. That's what it says on the box. But I've got sort of mixed impressions on whether people would enjoy a review of the piece now that it's finished. So I haven't figured out if I should do a video of it or not. Hang on. Sorry, I had to get my water. I know that in the Diamond Art Club group, no mystery painting imaging is to be allowed. But what would you say the best approach would be to a video if it's got, you know, hey, this is a mystery painting, and maybe I do the screenshot is in such a way that you're not going to accidentally get a thumbnail that spoils it for you. Yeah, it was still, for being a mystery that I saw the picture of in one of the groups, I was still pleasantly surprised when I was working on it. There was all kinds of things that I was like, hey, I don't remember this being in the picture. But yes. Okay, so make sure that I make it clear that it's a spoiler, and then everybody else can see it because it's gorgeous. It's interesting. I really wanted to do a mystery because liked the idea of working on a black and white, and I also was thinking that I would probably do a heaven and earth cross stitch conversion at some point. And so I needed to do some squares and everything, but I didn't want to do a big old painting if I didn't like it. And then I saw it and I thought that it would be perfect for my mom. This is all her favorite colors. As I told my husband, the sky's a little too cotton candy for me, but it's perfect for my mom. Thank you, Veronica. I'll take a look at for mystery diamond paintings from other creators and see what they did to help keep it. I know I've seen some whip-in chats by, I think, Diamonds and Washi, where she's worked on a section, but she's given like a million warnings and then not actually discussed what was in the video, so you could hide the screen and listen along to her commentary. Considering I end up usually listening to the commentary at work, that works out just fine for me. Hello, Blunts and Gems. So where is everybody from? I'm from the Bay Area in California, about, I think technically 2/3 of the way up California's coast, but and I grew up in the Midwest in Indiana, so heat, cold, humidity, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires, hurricanes. I went to school in Florida. Maryland, Arizona. Robert, I have been eyeballing Victoria for a vacation. I made it to Vancouver on a work trip, had bronchitis, so I basically went to the event, went through 5,000 cough drops, and slept. I didn't see anything except one restaurant, but Victoria has been on the to-do list. And North Carolina, the other coast, yes. My dad lived out there for a short time, and while he was there, I visited him briefly. We made a whirling road trip. My cousin was getting married in Alabama, and my dad wasn't feeling well and was in North Carolina, so we drove. Well, I lived out in California at that point. But flew to Indiana and met up with my sister, and we drove down to Alabama, and then we drove through Georgia up into North Carolina, visited with my dad before I flew home. Where in Florida, all fired up? I lived on the Space Coast. And then I went to Fort Lauderdale for school, to finish school. Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. Trying to think. I have absolutely no idea what part of Pennsylvania that's on, but I've driven through Pennsylvania. I did a summer job out in New Hampshire and drove from Indiana to Pennsylvania, or through Pennsylvania and a bunch of other states to get to a little tiny town in New Hampshire for the summer. Tennessee, Atlanta, Kansas City, Missouri, DC, Saskatchewan, Michigan, I grew up in northern Indiana and I had a friend who lived on the Michigan side of the border, except her backyard, I think it was like 10 feet from her back door, was considered Indiana. She complained about property taxes every year because she had to pay 2 states for her property taxes. Just south of Fort Lauderdale. Been there, I went to school there. Northeastern Pennsylvania is where the Poconos are. It's possible I drove through them when I went to New Hampshire. If you're anywhere close to, I think it's 80. South of Buffalo. Got some travelers. I find it very interesting to see how families move around, or people move around, and what takes them along. So I went to school for fashion design. It's the closest to learning, the closest I could do to getting a costuming degree, which taught me how to do pattern making. You know, growing up knowing some pretty intense sewing techniques, and learning them from a perfectionist mother. My sewing was not in doubt, but there's a limit on commercial patterns when you're looking at costuming, and sometimes you just need to be able to take a sketch and make a pattern. And so when I went to college, that was every time I'd tour a college, it was, I want to do this and I need to learn how to make patterns. What's your patterning program like? So I ultimately discovered that to learn what I needed to learn, I had to get a fashion design degree, not a theater or costuming degree. And so the first thing I would do, it sounds like he's got himself a good start, and I would say the starting point is, do you want to do costuming specifically, like for film and TV, or do you want to work on costumes but more as a musical theater career? That can assist. So for me, I'm in the local union, We're the Theatrical Wardrobe Union, and we are part of a union which works with all theater and stage technicians. It's actually called IATSE, the International Alliance of Theater and Stage Tech. Heck, I've forgotten how it goes. International Alliance, Theatrical and Stage Employees, I think is what the E is. This is, Berta, this is Autumn Walk by Olga Darchuk from Diamond Art Club. So, Risa, your son can go onto the IATSE website, and there is a directory, and you can look and see if there is either a Theatrical Wardrobe Union local, or look for a mixed local. And that just means that the local covers all aspects of live entertainment, not just the costuming. And see if he can talk to the members, and especially if they also have film and TV jurisdiction, which ours does, you know, talking to both may help him figure out what he is what he is really wanting to focus on. We had a TV show that came into town, and they needed some people, and I had taken a training class. I felt comfortable going onto the set and doing it. I did it for a week. It wasn't for me, not because I didn't enjoy the work, but because of the insane hours and how little planning and control of your schedule there is. And this may be different for, say, studio TV, or, you know, in this case they were out on site. We were going to different parts of the city. And so there was filming during the day, there was filming late at night. Sometimes we'd start at 6 in the morning, and sometimes we'd start at 2 in the afternoon and go until 2 in the morning. And you didn't find out until 10 o'clock the night before, if you were lucky. So I didn't enjoy that. I really found the work was good, I was able to do it, but I didn't enjoy the schedule. And for me, I certainly won't do a long-term film project. I might go in and help out on a 1 day or 1 week basis. But I wouldn't take on a long-term job because I just don't enjoy that kind of a schedule. For theater, you get your schedule pretty much when you get dispatched, and you end up not really deviating much from it. Like, a deviation from the schedule might be you stayed an extra 15 minutes because something happened to delay the start of the show. Not you thought you were starting at 10 a.m. and now you're starting at 2 p.m. and therefore going to be up a lot later. But the skill sets are fairly similar. If you are, so for our union, we have members who don't have a background in sewing and costuming. We require everybody to know how to do a quick whip stitch to hold something together in an emergency. They all have to know how to sew on buttons and snaps, basically anything that's safety. So very basic hand sewing is required of everybody. But then we have people who have specialties. So for me, I will get calls where they specifically want somebody who can sew, who understands. I had one call, they asked specifically for somebody who was really good with zippers. Because people who sew aren't necessarily comfortable putting in zippers. That was their whole logic for that. So not all of my co-members who sew would have necessarily taken it. So having good sewing, the ability to modify patterns is good. The ability to do patterns directly from scratch is good. And if he wants to pick my brain more, he can email me or Facebook me, and I'm happy to help him find local resources as well as answer any questions he has. Yes, groupies do exist, Crashly. Unfortunately, I don't think that there's an actual paying job for them. I've worked on some shows where people were super thrilled that they had the VIP access, and this was their 20th show that they had VIP access. It's like, okay, so you really like this performer. But yeah, in general, that's not a career path, sadly. It's not a paying career path. Which makes it hard to survive. How's the noise? Because just realized there's been a couple of noisy motorcycles that went by. I live on a corner and nobody seems to think that the stop sign exists for them. Berta, Lion King is a great show. I've worked it twice, and the only issue I have is it never fails that somebody gets hurt. You know, big awkward puppets, but it's amazing what a ton of beads and some creative uses of fabric did to give the overall impression of an animal without removing the human from the picture. Yeah, I thought this corner would be quiet because there's a school across the street and it's a four-way stop sign. No. Nobody seems to like to stop. So what are the plans that we have for the weekend? Debbie, is stop sign's a suggestion. Yes, well, it's perturbing when the suggestion involves children. It's not even like it's the high school, it's the grade school. So we got little ones trying to cross the street. it makes my husband so grouchy. Right now he's at work, so he's not having to deal with it, but tomorrow between football and the stop sign, he'll be yelling. I told him when we move our next place, especially since the plan is to purchase our next place, the number one priority, I don't care about the other criteria, they can be modified, is that it will not be on a busy intersection. It will be on a cul-de-sac or out in the boonies. Some place where it's quiet and not a lot of traffic, because it almost bothers me more to hear him grumble and complain than to deal with the noise. Blunts and gems. Yeah. Between watching all the Craft-A-Thon videos, which gives me a good excuse to not watch football. It's okay. I don't retain enough to know anything. Then I'm responsible today for getting the lasagna to my in-laws for the dinner party that they're having. It takes like 2 hours to cook. So I'll go over early and probably take a little cross-stitch project with me, sit and visit with my mother-in-law and whoever else shows up early. He was not amused that I found the last 10 minutes of last week's San Francisco game to be the best part of the entire weekend. I had a good belly-hugging laugh over the absolute deluge that resulted in a field full of water slides. Berta, I don't know. He might or might not, but considering he falls asleep to the sound of the recorded sound of crickets and frogs, he's a very light sleeper. I think that's the problem. I mean, he'd practically wake up for a mouse. So. And yes, I have to do something, but he likes me to be with him. What? Go Bulldogs. The mouse and me are fine. Right now he has a beef with the ants. It seems like as soon as the weather turned, they decided, nope, gotta go inside. So he's fighting with them right now. Keeps telling me that there must be food somewhere. I'm like, dude, you don't let us keep food out anyway. So. And yes, the mice and I have a good relationship. Growing up, we lived on the backside of a cornfield. So every winter, our house got invaded by the little field mice. And by February, they were brazen. They would be sitting on the counter, gnawing at a bag of bread, And you'd walk in and they'd just look at you and go back to eating the bag of bread. They were brazen. But I also was sympathetic. It was really, really cold outside. So the bread just went in the fridge, so they couldn't get to it. Risa, just for your information, you'll find me on Facebook as Naomi Patrick, and if he wants to email me directly, it's my channel at gmail.com. No spaces in the name. Yes, Billy, I'm on my iPhone. Sorry, I missed your question way back. I do all my video filmings on my iPhone, and with moving everything, when the light went out right before I started, I just set up the phone because it was fastest. I suspect if I use my webcam attachment for my computer, that I might be able to fix it to be the right direction. Old farmhouses, yeah. Anytime you've got a food source that, whether it's indoors or outdoors, the mice do show up. Tilt your phone into landscape mode. I'll try that. Thank you, Billy. So let's see. Just a reminder that Bella Art de Nicole is coming up next. And I know that the last channel I was watching, there was a link at the top to the, it might be because I'm on the live, I don't know. Hang on. Share. Copy link. For anyone that needs it, there's the link to the playlist that has all of the past and present lives on it. So I'll show you who's coming up when. If they've already had their live, then you can watch the playback. That's really good tip, Berta. From the playlist, you can select autoplay and it'll just pop right into the next one. All right. What is everyone working on right now? Sorting Hotfix gems. Oh yes, sorting things. I have a bunch of beads that I need to sort and put away. They're actual jewelry beads. I took them for a project and now I need to put them all away. Taking a nap. This is a nice accompaniment to the nap. Midnight Spell. Don't think I've... That one sounds interesting. Bluebird Song by Chuck Pinson. Chuck-A-Long. That is a good name for an event. Chuck-A-Long. Moment on Memory Lane. Berta, you've got a variety. I have, of course, I shouldn't say too much about it because for cross stitch, I don't even know how many I've got. At the beginning of the year, I put all but 15 of my whips away and just focused on them. And I finished about 4 of them, so including a really big one. So I've made some progress, but yeah, I have a whole tub full of either started whips or partial whips. So far I have managed to restrict myself to 1 active diamond painting at a time. Hidden Tigers. Quiet Cove for Chuck-A-Long. Sea Breeze Tail for Sea Breeze Trail. Oh, good Lord. Tuscan Serenade from Craftably. That sounds cool. I was looking at a Tuscan inspired one for my in-laws and hadn't decided yet, so I'll have to go take a look for that one. Hi, Rhonda. If I could figure out how I would store it when I wasn't working on it, I would maybe stretch to 2, a round and a square. But yeah, at the moment, I haven't figured that part out. Sweet Life by Chuck Pinson. For some reason, I think I've seen, well, I probably have, if he's a Diamond Art Club artist. But I don't know that I've got any Chuck Pinsons. Little Bray, Little Moody. Yeah. I warned my husband that I had spilled drills and tried to get them all, but that he'd probably find some around my seat. And he was grumbling for the next week. And I told him, I warned him, but you know, they are insidious. They're almost as bad as sequins. I worked on the costumes for Mamma Mia for a local production. The sequins for the finale numbers in that show, I was convinced we were going to still be finding them 2 years later. And we probably would have, except that they decided to do a complete gut job on our sewing space and took it down to the studs. You got one stuck in your eye. That does not sound fun. Sounds quite painful. Yeah, no. I'll pass on that experience. No drills in the eye if possible. They're less painful to step on than Legos, but yeah. Goggles, safety gear. Oh, yes. We are mad scientists, though, especially when we start getting creative with sparkles and the specialty drills. Yes, Cheryl, blinging the goggles is a must. one of the senior ladies in the union, I worked on a show, and she had glasses to protect her eyes from just regular old glasses. They weren't full-on safety goggles, but she said they weren't prescription. And she had blinged every single pair. She had a different color of frame and with different color bling pretty much for every day of the week. I forget how many pairs she actually had, but she loved her bling and she loved her statement glasses, and so she blinged them up. Hi, Sandy. No? Okay. So in a few minutes, it's going to be Bella Art de Nicole's turn, and I have had a wonderful time chatting with you all. I hope that you all have enjoyable weekends and get a lot of crafting done. I'm sure I will be around, particularly tomorrow. But don't know why my brain's just decided it's gonna stop. Does this a little too often. I will be cheering everyone on, and I'm sure I will see you in some of the other chats. So in a few minutes, it's going to be Bella Art de Nicole's turn, and I will stay on right up until noon, my time. I think it's 3 o'clock Eastern. And I hope you have a wonderful Saturday wherever you are, and that it is a good time. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you around. And if anyone blings up goggles, we'll need to see pictures. You're all very welcome, and I'm glad you had a good time. All right, everyone. Thank you for attending and have a good time. Bye.